We are in Corinth, where Paul came and spoke to the Corinthians about Jesus. I believe he spoke to them once, left, and then came back to revisit all that knowledge that he taught them.
What? Because of all the temple worship and the idols and all the spiritual climate, you understand then all the gifts of the Spirit were operating in the church. And Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 12, he writes in 1 Corinthians 12 that he said, no man can say Jesus is Lord but by the Spirit of God, and no man can say Jesus is accursed by the Spirit of God. He's talking about spiritual utterances because these people would have prophecies or utterances and oracles from the gods. And he's saying in a moving of the Spirit, when somebody utters Jesus is cursed, it ain't the Spirit of God.
Right.
And when Jesus, and nobody can say by the Spirit Jesus is Lord unless it's the Holy Ghost. Confessing that He's Lord, it would be the Holy Ghost. So anyway, you can understand that this was a new age, like in our day and age, it would have been like a new age city with all the junk and all the palm readers and all the tarot card readings and the psychics and this and that, and you have a thriving church in the midst of it, and you have to separate between the godly things and the wicked and not have the bleeding over into the church. So we're going to walk into the city here. Is that wall over there where those white pillars are? That's the Bema seat. We'll walk up to it.
No, I was going to have people in there anyhow.
You can look. You can see some of the ancient writings. Inscriptions, you'll notice that all over places like that. And I don't know what it says. I can see Caesar, but the rest is all Greek to me.
Okay, I love Greece. I can totally see the benefits of living here. It kind of reminds me of Ireland. It's green, the ruins, it's gorgeous, it's raining. And up there, that would be Aphrodite's temple. And it was said, I don't know if you heard earlier, but it said the women had the power in those days. And that the men were called to the women. And if they were high priest, then they would be required to have sex with the women, and the women would consider it for the men to do that, it would be honor for them, not for the women. The women, it was something required of them. So it's kind of weird. The women would actually shave their heads, and they were considered beautiful, and the men would have to stand on top of these stones with the words under their feet that say, "Follow me." So the men would go and stand on the stones. The woman would come and choose her man, because back in that days, the men were the prostitutes, and the women would beckon the men to their houses, to their rooms, and it was considered pure. So.
Okay, somebody get out Acts 18. The governor or the authorities, the judge, whatever, would have sat up there. They would bring the accused before the Bema seat and pronounce judgment on them. This is where they brought Paul. You read Acts 18. You got it?
That's awesome. That's too cool.
Start around, the first couple of verses, see where we're at.
I feel the anointing. These things Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth.
Okay.
And he found
Everybody listen up.
And he found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. And because he was of the same craft, he abode with them, and wrought for by their occupation they were tent makers.
So this is where Paul did tent making.
And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks.
Now, the synagogue's around here somewhere. I don't know where it's at. Spears does, but he's found it. And it's in a little house. It's not a big, huge building. So it was a little house synagogue.
And when Silas and Timothy were from Macedonia, Paul was pressed in the spirit, and he testified to the Jews that Jesus was Christ.
2 Corinthians, he said, to Christians, we must all stand before the Bema seat of Christ. That word judgment is Bema. Paul had personal experience with the Bema seat right here when he was brought. Keep reading.
Saying, this fellow persuaded men to worship God contrary to the law. And when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it's a question of words and names and of your law, look ye to it, for I will not no judge of such matters. And he drove them from the judgment seat. Then all the Greeks took Sosthenes,
Yeah, he was one of the Jewish leader that was coming against Paul,
the chief ruler of the synagogue, and he beat him before the judgment seat. And Gallio cared for none of those things.
So here, get the picture. This guy stirs up the Jews. Paul comes in his mode of operation, he said in Romans, to the Jew first and the Gentiles. Everywhere he went in the book of Acts, he'd go to the synagogues and find his fellow Jews and start telling them that Jesus was the Messiah. And some believed and some didn't. The guy here, Sosthenes, stirred up the other Jews against him and brought him here and trying to get him to be judged. And the guy said, I'm not going to mess with your stuff. That's between you and your law. And so then the Greeks turned on the Jews and started beating the Sosthenes right here after Paul was dismissed. So now Paul knows about the Bema seat. And so in 2 Corinthians, he says, as Christians, we must all stand before the Bema seat of Christ to give an account of the works we've done in the body. And he talked about the wood, hay, and stubble being burned up and all that, and the precious jewels. So our works will be judged. What we do as Christians will be judged at standing before the throne of God, before the throne of Christ, the judgment seat, the Bema seat. Right here.
Oh my God.
Is that the bathroom? Wait, is that where like ladies would get naked?
Anyways, all the length of that is a carved out bench with holes every foot or two, and that's where everybody sat and did their business. It was a public toilet. And then down here was the public bath. This was the Temple of Apollo here, I think. There's a sign over there.
Coming down.
Top of the Bema seat, so this is where the judges and so forth would be looking down at Paul or whoever they were brought before them to just pass judgment.
Park, you see the scripture they have over there?
Yeah.
Alright, this is Zeus's palace. And the burn marks are because it was set on fire a long time ago. Not to be sounding sarcastic or anything, it's just I don't want my lens to get wet because it's been getting wet. Alright, so that's Zeus's palace, Apollos' palace, somebody else's palace, Aphrodite's palace. She's stupid. But it's pretty awesome. Like,